No wonder there's fear of a population crisis. Young men and women are wildly out of sync on family values. Party lines are dividing Gen Z on the big issues that weren't political for their parents and grandparents, kids, and marriage. A new poll found that young men who voted for Orange Man prioritize having children above all else, but being a parent is of so little importance to young women who voted for Heels Up Harris. It charted second to last out of 13 options. Yeah, it's last until they hit the wall, until their eggs dry up, and then suddenly they get the baby rabies and they wonder where all the good men are to have children with them. Now, the men that they were calling toxic and they drove away ages ago. Something that used to be taken for granted as a rite of passage and a fact of life has now become yet another matter for political debate. And then these same women that make it clear that they don't want to be mothers, they don't want to be housewives, then they get mad when men leave for other countries where they can get that. Sorry, men don't exist to serve you. It's really no surprise considering right-wing influencers are pushing family values hard while the left has adopted an attitude towards marriage and children that's ambivalent at best and hostile at worst. And then let's not forget that the country was pushed very hard towards feminazism. The poll conducted in August and September by Nothing But Crap News asked 18 to 29-year-old Americans to choose their top 3 priorities from a list that included a fulfilling career, emotional stability, owning a home, being spiritually grounded, and being debt-free. I bet women's prioritized a fulfilling career because they're still under the impression that it's a male privilege to work yourself to death for a thankless corpo. By the time they learn it's not all it's cracked up to be, it's always too late. Marriage charted at number 4 for male Trump supporters and women who voted for the president. Meanwhile, said achieving financial independence was their first priority. Having kids came in at number 6, while getting married at number 9. I personally think that is the most concerning statistic, where even among the more conservative leaning whammons, they still couldn't care less about family and kids. They will claim to be trad, but in practice they're anything but. Although anyone who's been in the conservative spaces for any length of time, you should be used to this by now. Every single trad thought is like this. Every single one of them. They all end up being chameleons. Like, they all parrot right-wing pro-family talking points, and they're all like 35 and single mothers. They're all divorced. None of them are living any of the shit they preach. But they want you to, though. At least when I preach something, I can generally say I'm living it. Yeah, this is very concerning, man. Yeah, there's literally no difference between conservative females and leftist males and females. Look at this. So number 1 for both men and women was having a fulfilling job. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it. They fell for the trap, man. They fell for the propaganda. But that's number 2 for conservative women. Oh, God, this is just funny, man. Hey, at least they all align on their last pick. They're all like fame and influence is last on the list. I guess they could do one thing right. Man, this is just concerning. We could easily fix this, though, if you just rolled back the feminism. Both young men and women who voted for Heels Up Harris prioritize a fulfilling career over everything else. And marriage, Democrat voting males ranked it at 9th place, women 11th. Having kids fared even worse, with Harris vote is number 10 for men and 12 for women's. Why would they need to have their own kids when they can just brainwash your kids? And no wonder there's a fear of a baby bust. My generation is absolutely scrambled and at odds when it comes to love and marriage. That's why you don't stay in this country. It's not hard. Move to another country that's more in line with your values. Dude, I know a guy who's living in Nazi Germany right now, and he's planning on moving. He's actually in the process of packing up and leaving. He's just dealing with the legal BS back home to do a clean cut. He's moving to, of all places, Indonesia. Like, man, Indonesia is a better fit than Nazi Germany. Jordan Peterson's lectures about marriage routinely rake in millions of views. Ben Shapiro and his fellow Daily Wire host sparked a conversation with the video roundtable why you should get married young. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, urges men to have as many chillins as they can. Well, not everyone can afford to pay child support like the world's richest man. Charlie Kirk went so far as to speak about Taylor Swift's engagement on a recent episode of his podcast. There's something that I hope will make Taylor Swift more conservative, engage in reality more, and get outside of the abstract clouds. Reject feminism. Submit to your husband, Taylor. Now I'm starting to think maybe the Minecrafter was a jilted Taylor Swift fan that had to protect Milady's honor. It's a non-zero possibility given how fucking crazy those people are. And the bottom line, the conservative podcast world that is so influential with young men, even California Governor Newsom admitted his son is a fan of Kirk, has embraced marriage and embraced it strongly. Well, if the women in your country refuse to, leave them behind and go somewhere else. And considering statistics show married men are wealthier, healthier, and happier, and not wrong in doing so. Now, this is a blatant lie, by the way. I do agree with the general message they're trying to push, but stop with these lies. Do you want to know why they consider married men to be wealthier, healthier, and happier? Because divorced men who lose their wealth and health and happiness to divorce are counted in the same bracket as men who stayed single their whole lives. They do not differentiate between men who are voluntarily single and men who used to be married and were just destroyed by the divorce courts. That's the only reason they have this lie of a statistic that they can keep throwing out there. On the flip side, the left has abandoned the idea that family has any intrinsic value. Yeah, instead, they encourage them to just brainwash other people's kids and make them cut their dicks off and shit. So young Waymans on TikTok are going boy sober and swearing off relationships with voluntary celibacy. Viral movements that suggest love isn't just worth the trouble. I mean, that's true, actually. In current year especially, it's really not. I don't blame anyone who does this. Celebrities popular with Gen Z push anti-marriage and anti-child messaging. Model Emily Ratajkowski straight up celebrated calling off her marriage with a divorce ring. She's going to be the next Sinead O'Connor, isn't she? Like, she's going to be 60 and crying that she's going to die alone. And Zoomer pop music icon Chappell Roan said on her Call Her Daddy podcast, all my friends who have kids are in hell, which is actually probably true as well. I don't need a spouse, or for that matter, children. Feminazism has told left-leaning young women that pretty much everything else is more important than family. And the men that actually want family have to put up with a sea full of women like this. There's a very sad development. These are life decisions, not political footballs. Oh, bullshit. Given how easy divorce is, you really want to call this a life decision? I mean, at least for women, they could just decide they're not happy and leave with the man's money whenever they want. If men had that option too, needs to be a little bit different. Well, my generation is incredibly lucky to grow up in a moment where so many glass ceilings have been shattered for us. Oh, so this is another feminist, huh? Young women don't need to choose between I don't need a man attitude and being a trad wife. The young men shouldn't believe the only answers are having a submissive partner or turning into an incel. But those kind of are the only options. I mean, you could be a voluntary celibate, I guess, but there's no point for a man to get married if your partner is going to behave like a fucking man and fight you constantly. Why would you add extra stress to your life like that? Gen Z, male, female, right, left, needs positive, empowering messaging that teaches you can prioritize marriage, family, and children while also valuing independence, career, and financial stability. And then 2 years later, they see those people get divorced and get completely ruined, and they learn, oh, okay, I shouldn't do that. It's time to make love apolitical again. Okay, fix the family courts, fix the legal system. Are you willing to do that? If so, then maybe a lot more men will come back. There's a bit of good news from the poll. The only thing men and women on both sides agree on, being famous, came in dead last. Yeah, fame on its own is kind of useless. If it doesn't also come with money and or power, like fame is a detriment unless it has something else with it. So I think they're kind of smart in that regard.